All right, JinJa, you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much, first of all, Kathryn. This has really been amazing. It's always wonderful to host any workshops with Far South. And this is Black History Month, so let's recognize that
Yes.
this is the ever since the pandemic and the murder of George Floyd, the year 2023 is the year of Black resistance. We're starting to say no to stuff. So, we just have to recognize that happening, which is real. It's actually real. So thank you so much for, again, hosting Google Digital Coaches and definitely hosting me. And thanks for that wonderful introduction. So anyway, everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome to Build Your Professional Brand. My name is JinJa Birkenbeuel. I'm the CEO of Birk Creative. And as Kathryn mentioned, I have several businesses that I run, and I've become really smart about how to manage my personal and professional brand in the context of all the brands that I do have. I have Journey of Gratitude, which is a nonprofit organization I founded in 2021 after the pandemic as an opportunity to give back to other small business owners. I just today received my green light from Google for my Google grant program. So now I have access to $10,000 a month as a nonprofit organization to run ads with Google. So I'm really looking forward to that. If you're a nonprofit organization and you don't know about the Google grants program, you need to know about it. I'm also a songwriter in a soft country band called Utah Carol. And I have a podcast. I just recently had the most amazing conversation with an entrepreneur. Her name is Candace Nelson. She founded a company called Sprinkles Cupcakes, and she actually sold the company to a venture capital company for probably $1 billion. I don't know. And so now she's on to other things, a company called Pizana. So I really would love for you to listen to her podcast because it is fascinating. She talks about her journey growing up in Indonesia and how she managed her professional brand, how she branded her company, Sprinkles Cupcakes, and it's really relevant to what we're actually talking about now, right? So I would really encourage you to take a look at that. So I want to just go ahead and get started because we have about an hour for this workshop, and I do want to leave some room for some questions, and then I want to open. I think I have a couple things I might want to show you after the workshop, so some things that are happening online. I would love it if you could mute your microphones. I do hear some sounds, and I'm noticing on my app over here, a few people don't have their microphones muted. So I would ask that you mute your own microphone. Otherwise, I will have to mute your microphone, and I don't really want to do that. So thank you so much for doing that because everybody has lots of things happening in the background, family, food, children, dogs, everything amazing happening. Okay, I don't know how many people are on the chat. I can't actually see, but I'd love for you to say hello. I am seeing just a few names. Hi, Regina. Hi, Meryl. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Valencia. Hi, Grant. Whoever else is here. Please introduce yourself. Say hello in the chat. Get used to sort of networking this way. I just ran a class yesterday on how to network, and really the conversation was learning how to network virtually in chat environments because a lot of us are meeting people that way now. We're meeting people on LinkedIn, or we're meeting people on IG Live and things like that. So say hello, introduce yourself, put your company name and the link to something to buy on your website. That would be fantastic. And if you could connect with Digital Coaches Program on Instagram, we actually have a really huge event coming up this week in celebration of Black History Month. So if you go to Digital Coaches Program on Instagram, you can then register for the Black History Month celebration that we're having. I think it shows two people that are waiting. Should I just admit them, Kathryn? I can do it.
Yeah,
I just
I'm
submitted.
I'm admitting right now. I'm
Oh,
handling
okay.
that
Sorry. It just
That's
kind of
okay.
it's popping up on my screen, and I've got so much going on here that I want to make sure that I'm not missing
Yeah,
something. Okay,
I
so you can
gotcha.
handle it. Okay,
I
great.
gotcha.
All right. So we do have a program, like I said, coming up for Black History Month, and I think it's in a couple days, and it's going to be a national event. So all the coaches from across the country will be making presentations. There's some really important leaders from Google that are making a presentation as well. So I encourage you to register and join that. It's going to be a lot of fun every single year. It's fun. And if you could please, I'm just going to go ahead and mute microphones because I think it's faster for me to do that. Let me just do that right here. Sorry, I have to mute. Let's see here. I'm not able, for some reason, I'm not able to mute Grant Birkenbeuel for some reason. Okay, anyway, so, all right. Okay, so let's see. I do have another workshop coming up the next couple days. If you go to googledigitalcoaches.com, you can register for additional workshops. Um, I would ask Grant, can you please mute your microphone if you are able to do that? I'm not showing it as mute. Okay. So we're going to start today by covering what a professional brand is and how companies use brands to build their trust with their customers and clients. We're going to talk about how to build your personal brand, how it can help you grow your career. I know Kathryn's had this workshop before, but there's always something new to learn if you've been to this workshop before. And then we're going to go over 3 steps that you can take to build your professional brand, define your brand, build your online presence, and then we'll talk a little bit about how to start defining your professional brand and how you can keep building your brand in person. This really becomes this conversation I mentioned earlier where we're talking about networks and things like that. Does anyone, what questions does someone have for me right now before I go on? All right. All right. So let's go. So why don't we get started? Let's think about a company that you like. Maybe it's a restaurant, maybe it's a clothing brand, maybe it's a particular product you enjoy. Right now, I'm kind of thinking about, I think Louis Vuitton, because Pharrell just recently became the like design director of Louis Vuitton, right? And I'm thinking about that as a brand. That's a brand that I'm not that familiar with. I've never been able to afford it, but it's not really a brand that I love. But I'm thinking about that because it's in the news right now to have Pharrell, be a part of that. So when you think about this company, what images come to your mind, right? What feelings do you associate with the company? Who do you think their ideal customer, client, or target audience is? This company that you're thinking about. Maybe you're thinking about Nike. Maybe you're thinking about McDonald's. Maybe you're thinking about Gatorade. I'm not sure. But what sets their product or service apart from their competitors, right? How does their advertising make you feel about using their product or service? Think about that. And then how do they maintain consistency in their advertising? Can you recognize them by the sound? Can you recognize them just by the colors, by the logo? Like what are you looking at or what are you seeing or what are you hearing that's making you say, oh, that's the brand. That's the kind of thing that we're trying to do as entrepreneurs. We're trying to get people to recognize us in some way, right? Whether that's, maybe, some people I notice on social, they show their brand is their face, their brand is their hair. You can always look at them and tell, okay, that's the brand blank because it's always the same. All these impressions, that you have interacting with or hearing about a company, even if it's just looking at their logo, this is what comprises a company's brand. And this is how I want you to think about your own brand. So you're a person, but you're not a company. I mean, it really depends. Some people consider themselves a brand, right? Like the person is the brand, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes people have a product or they have a service. But just as companies, brands communicate their qualities, you can build a brand and market yourself and grow your career. Your professional brand is made up of unique combinations of your career story, along with your qualities, your skills, your experiences. Maybe it's a way of letting potential employers know who you are. Educational institutions, maybe you're applying to get a job ad or something like that. Clients, maybe even mentors. Maybe you're looking for a mentor, and mentors want to know who you are and what you have to offer before they even decide, yes, I will be your mentor, right? So a few slides back, we thought about maybe the specific company. So what images and feelings do you want people to associate with you and your work? What do you want people to think about you? Do you have integrity? I mean, everybody says they have integrity, but some people actually really lean into that heavily. Like, I lead everything with integrity, right? And some people don't, and that's fine too. What qualities do you want potential employers, clients, or collaborators to know about, the qualities that you possess? Who's your ideal employer? Who's your ideal client? Who's your ideal customer? I'll tell you in my personal story, it's taken me a long time to really hone in on who my ideal clients are. And I was able to probably within the last 10 years get very specific about that. And within the last 2 or 3 years, I've really become very specific about the type of clients that I want to work with. And I think that the clients that I'm working with are very specific about the type of people or agencies they want to work with as well. So I'm really finding a nice thing, and that's important for you to think about as well. But what sets you apart from people in the same industry or similar career paths, right? I had a workshop several years ago, and everyone in the room was a lawyer, and I was looking around the room like, okay, can you guys they weren't even guys, they're all women, I should say, can all of you people, can you come up with what differentiates yourself from the lawyer sitting next to you? Do you know what makes you different? What is your competitive advantage? Is it your location? Is it the type of law you practice? Is it the kind of service you provide your clients? Like, what makes you different? And that's something that you always have to ask, because I guarantee you, whatever you're delivering as a service, somebody else is delivering as a service as well, for sure. Okay. How can you maintain consistency? Consistency is having the same message on your profiles, potentially using the same headshot, everywhere, having the same colors, right? Having a logo, having the same type of a voice. If you have a lot of energy with everything you do, bringing that energy to everything that you do, wherever you go to present your service, or however you present yourself on a podcast, things like that. So you may not have paid advertisements, on shopping bags or t-shirts like I have. Because I've got my brand today on, because I'm running for right now for you a professional branding workshop. But you can think about things like that depending on where you're going or what event you're heading to. Instead of wearing a Nike logo, wear your own. Wear your own logo. Nike doesn't need any more of your oxygen, okay? All right, so strong branding is always helpful for people in the job market. Always, always helpful, but it's even more helpful and more important when you start your own business or you launch a freelance career. All right, so now that you're getting a sense of what professional branding can mean for you as an individual, I want you to apply the same questions to a person in the public eye. The reason I do that is because some people, it depends on what you're doing. Maybe you're a politician, and you're trying to figure out how do I brand myself there. It's a little bit of a different process. But think of a public figure you admire. They could be a performer, like I said, a politician, anyone in the public eye. So what feelings and images do you associate with them? And one of the things I do want to ask around that is, and I'm thinking of specific politicians in my mind right now. One of the challenges about professional and personal branding is that you can either create this brand yourself and help direct the narrative, or you can stay silent and someone else can direct the narrative for you. And you know what? If you want to let people direct your narrative, you can. You can't control everything, but there are some things you can do to inspire people to write about things that you want them to write about, in addition to making their own opinions, right? So politicians really struggle with that. But what qualities does this public figure possess that you're thinking of in your head, right? If you're not thinking of a politician, can you think of a rock star, a pop star, some, inspirational speaker? Who do you think their ideal customer is, right? I remember talking to someone once and I was like, I don't like that song. And that person said to me, well, the reason you don't like that song is because that artist is really not for you, JinJa. That's not your generation, JinJa. So what sets them apart from the people in the same industry, right? I mean, how do people make distinctions, for example, between, and don't get offended by when I ask this question, but how do you make a distinction between, Beyonce and Rihanna, right? Like, I mean, I know what the distinction is, but like literally they have two very distinct brands, not only because they have different songs, but they have distinct brands. How do they maintain consistency in their marketing projects or appearances? And, I know that I'm bringing up kind of, people that have a lot of money and opportunity and they have networks and corporations behind them, but even still on a smaller scale like you and I, we still have to think about these things if we have a desire, interest, or goals that say we want to make money, we want to run a business, right? We want to run a business. We have to think about things like this. All right, so in this section, we're going to go over 3 steps you can take to build your brand, right? Defining your brand, building your online presence, and then growing your network. And I hope I can spend as much time on growing a network as possible, because the pandemic has made it very difficult for small business owners, entrepreneurs, especially women of color and women, to network, because we're not out in the field as much as we used to. And it's just a lot more work now to build a community so that we can, build our businesses and keep going. So in this first step, I want you to think about defining your brand. And I'll lead you through a couple of exercises to help you get a better understanding of your brand. Second or third steps, we'll learn about actions you can start taking immediately. And then, you might want to open up a Google Doc. And if you have any questions or comments, or you want to talk about anything specific, feel free to leave it in the chat as well. So the first step towards communicating your brand is to figure out your brand statement. A lot of people get intimidated by this step in this process. Nothing to be afraid of, because you know what? Your brand statement can change year to year. I mean, things change, you evolve, you transform, you have a different vision of how you want to lead your life. So lots of new things happen that make you, make a change. So don't feel like whatever you come up with, you have to stick with forever. Nike is a little different, right? The big brands are different because they're building global brands and they're looking for sustaining, enduring brands, and it's a little different than having a professional brand. So your brand statement will be 1 or 2 sentences, which quickly let someone get to know you better, and let's get to know like what kind of work you do. You're going to use your brand statement to communicate lots of specific and key information to put on your resume. You're going to communicate to employers, potential collaborators. Again, I mentioned this earlier. We might want to, have this ready in our pocket when we're having a meeting to find out how we can get a mentor, right? Things like that. All right. So a significant part of your brand statement will be telling your career story. And this helps people understand who you are. I have a career story. I have a multiple lane career story, starting in one place, but then I've branched off into several others. And I like to think of this as I don't have just one career story. I have multiple career stories, and depending on my audience, I will make adjustments to my story that makes sense for the audience I'm speaking with, right? So I have like this music side of my world, and I've got my brand side of my world. I have a new nonprofit now. I also have a book publishing company. So depending on who I'm talking to, I have a little bit of a different story. And I want you to think about that as well, because I actually think more lanes is actually good when you're an entrepreneur and a small business owner. So anyway, like all good stories, it's really helpful to start at the beginning. So, I mean, just think about how Marvel, has anyone seen Ant-Man yet? Just think about how Marvel starts off, right? They always have a villain. There's the good guy. There's like, where did the villain come from? Where did the good guy come from? How do they transform, and how do they save lives and change the world and prevent the earth from blowing up or something? So there's always a path though that they got to their success. And I want you to think about your path as well. It's almost like, if you look up on Google right now, the storyline, how does Disney tell a story? It's very, very similar. Your work and life experiences have made you the person that you are. You can start your career story by talking about the experience that made you want to go into the career you're in now. Why did you decide to do this? That's a great conversation starter right off the bat. Maybe in your lifetime, you have, like I have a brother, and lots of interesting stories I can tell about my brother, and some of the things that he's told me has influenced the kind of work that I do with the certain clients that I work with, right? So that's the kind of story you might want to tell. Maybe, one of your siblings, has special needs, and that's why you decided to go into work in the nonprofit industry. Maybe you're a college student and you've always believed in environmental activism, and that's the kind of, information that will be helpful for you when you start working in the urban planning department at the city of Chicago, right? Something like that. Like you want to kind of figure out what is the link between what you did, what you grew up doing, and maybe what you're going to do now. And I had a question last night, a really interesting question. This guy at my workshop at the school, the Art Institute, he was like, I have a lot of interviews and conversations, and people tell me the same thing all the time. Like, I don't understand. How do you make a different story? And I told him, I said, I was very honest. And I said, the reason you're hearing the same thing over and over again is that the people you're talking to, or the people that are talking to you, are not being authentic. They're listening to step-by-steps, bullet point lists of how to communicate this and how to communicate that. And they're just following a formula. They're not being authentic. They're not being true to themselves. And they're probably being slightly dishonest. And that's what you need to tell people when you're coaching. When you start talking about how do you create a brand or a career story, be honest. Be honest. People want to know about the breaks you've taken. They want to know that, you decided to stay home and take care of your child because of XYZ. They want to know that you were taking care of an older person. They want to know that you had a gap year. They want to know that you traveled for 6 months because you needed a mental health break. You're human. I think one of the things that's come out of this pandemic for the survivors is people are more open to hearing authentic stories, right? And so I feel like that's something important to think about as you're coming up with your brand story. So we've talked about your past, and sort of, I want to kind of move a little bit to the future. It's always helpful to know what your professional goal is. Now, I can say for real, when I was really young, I had no idea what my goal was. I was just going full steam ahead on like a freight train. I had a career, and I knew what I went to school for, and I was applying what I learned to my career, which really was a great way to mask my goals, right? Because, you go to school for something, you just go and do it. The challenge around that is that maybe later in life, you're just like, I don't think I ever stopped to think about what I really wanted. So it's really important to kind of figure out what your professional goal is, because it'll help people know where you're headed, and it might help them decide whether they want to work with you. It also help you decide whether you want to work with them. So having that kind of information in your head is very important. And again, like I said earlier, your goals might change. You might one day decide, I want to, I want to work at a nonprofit so I can help, women, learn how to be entrepreneurs, at the same time while taking care of their children. I got to find a nonprofit that I can do that with, because when I was younger, there was my aunt, when I was growing up, she lost her job because she couldn't find childcare, and that's why I'm here. I mean, that's how it works. That's how it works, right? So having a professional goal, again, can still change over time. People make changes to their careers and everything, but think about what your professional goal is. So combining your origin story and your professional goal is always great. Try it. If you can write it down right now, give it a shot. Open up your Google Doc and see if you can come up with something, right? Here's a couple questions though to help you get started, and they're actually on the screen, so please just go ahead and take a look at this. What events led you to become interested in this type of work? Who influenced you along the way, right? Who helped you? What's the first big step you'd like to take towards your dream career, if you have one? How long do you want to be working in your field before you decide that you want to open your own business, or before you decide that you want to, become a VP or something like that? Okay. All right, so to complete your brand statement, you're going to need a few more details that describe the way you do things, right? Your first step is going to be to make a list of the things you want a potential employer, school, or coworker to know about you. They can be qualities you possess, like you have integrity, maybe you work hard. They can be specific skills you have, community organizing, different types of volunteer work. If you get stuck, you just think about words that other people maybe use to describe you. Have you ever actually taken the time to ask someone, how can you describe me, or what do you think about me, or what do you think my top qualities are? I mean, it's always, that's always a really good question to ask sometimes, just to kind of do an audit, of people that you trust, though. It's got to be people you trust that aren't going to lie to you. They're going to be really honest, right? So once you've made your list, and I like to keep a list actually of my attributes and desires and goals in a Google spreadsheet. I just like going back to look at my spreadsheet. I also got a brand new, what do you call these? Like a planner. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I have a day designer planner book. I just got it from Target. And it takes me through December. There's a lot of places to write, and there's stickers. And it really does, not only do I write things down, but I also combine them with what's on my iPhone, right? So I put them, well, actually my Pixel, I should say. My Pixel, I combine this with my calendar on my Pixel to help me sort of write down things that inspire me, that help me think of more things to add to my stories. But anyway, combining these qualities, these skills, talents, career story, this is what forms the basis of your professional brand. This is what works. So, all right. So try to write 1 or 2 sentences, if you can do this now, that would be great. I would love to hear someone at the end of this class read these things out loud. Your career story should give people a sense of who you are. I'm just going to read a couple of really funny examples that Google put together. I didn't write these, but they're kind of funny. I don't know. I don't like them all, but here's one. Here's a few examples of a really, really short career story brand statement. And just think about this. People don't want to listen to you talk for 10 minutes about your brand and your personal story. Not unless you're having a private, intimate, friendly conversation. But when you're talking about work, you really do need to keep something short. But here's something. I'm a journalist who brings attention to important social issues in my community. Very short, very sweet. I'm a trained improv comic who uses humor to get young people excited about STEM fields. That's kind of interesting. I like how short that is. Here's another one. Here's an example of a longer career story, right? It is, actually, no, I'm not going to read that one. It's not as great. It's not as great. It's not really fantastic, and I don't think it's really relevant. But I do think that once you kind of come up with a very, simple, short, impactful statement, you can put that on the top of your resume. You can add it to your social media profiles. You can have it on a piece of paper so that when someone's in an elevator asking you, like, what do you want to do? What are your plans? You have something real quick to sort of put it out there into the air. You want to put out things that you want to manifest, right? Always, always, always. This is always the first step towards building your professional brand. Like I said, it can change over time. Don't get stuck and think that you have to have something perfect. I always like to say perfection is always, always, always a killer of progress. You will try to do things perfectly and try to get it just right, and you will never move forward. It happens every time, every single time, right? All right. So here's a dreaded question. Has anyone ever gotten this question? So tell me about yourself. Anyone? I mean, I just feel like not only is it lazy of the person asking, but you're just like, did you really just ask me that? Like, tell me about yourself. It's like it's the worst line ever. But you're likely going to hear it because either the person that is asking might be kind of lazy, or it might be a trap to see how quick thinking you are on your feet and to see if you even know who you are, what your brand story is. If you've done this exercise before you get there, you're going to do just fine. You're going to do just fine. So keep that in mind. Don't fall into the trap. All right. So your career story, your list of your top 5 qualities, your skills, your accomplishments, activities. This gives you enough information to build your brand. What's the difference between a brand and a career story? Well, that's what we're talking about right now in this entire class. Kenneth, this whole class is about that. All right. Okay. So, all right. So your career story and your top 5 qualities, this is enough for you to start getting into building your brand, right? So I want you to think now about how to communicate these things online, right? What are the places that you can put this career story? Where can you share it? Where can it go? I mentioned social media channels, but how about your website? Again, in-person conversations. I was at an event and I stopped into the bathroom and I was washing my hands. There was someone next to me and we started talking, and then it was boom. We exchanged career stories, and the next thing you know, she's like building really, really huge, big things at Google. And I was like, thank goodness I knew what I was talking about when I met with her in the bathroom, because she's been a wonderful person to have in my network. So just always be ready, right? Always be ready and think about the most interesting and unusual places that you might be called upon to tell somebody what it is that you mean and what you're doing and what's important to you and what's your career story. All right. So I want to also talk about this powerful tool that we all know about called the internet, right? Your online presence should really be an extension of yourself when you're meeting someone in person, but it's online. And as I mentioned to someone yesterday, or I mentioned to the class yesterday when we were talking about this, your professional and personal brand is what shows up online. Okay. And of course, this is a business class. We're not trying to think about what it's like for you to consume content. We're trying to put ourselves in the position of creating content. So whatever is online is who you are, whether you like it or not, because when people are looking for you before they know who you are, they're most likely going to be typing your name in Google or LinkedIn or even the social media channels, and they're going to try to figure out, okay, who is this person, what they're about, what are they about, what are they saying, how do they talk, what do they sell, what are they interested in, things like that. So unlike the old days where you had to meet people in person to develop a reputation, your reputation now precedes you before you meet someone in person because it's online. And so that's why we're talking. All right, so keep that in mind. Don't be scared, but just definitely keep it in mind. So I don't know. I mean, I was at my workshop yesterday and there was a couple people there that didn't have social media channels. And I thought, I don't know how you're living, how you're getting business done. But I mean, maybe they're actually getting more done because they don't have a social media channel. But I assume that everyone on this call has a social media channel. So no matter what platforms you use, everything you put online affects how people view you, and it will impact your professional brand. There's a lot going on online. And unless you have incredible writing skills and you have amazing oratory skills and you understand how to manage crisis communications, I always recommend when you have a business or you sell a product or a service and you're developing and creating a professional brand, stay away from volatile conversations unless the conversation that's happening can align with your business and you know how to manage a crisis conversation. Otherwise, you will say something you regret. Someone will take a screenshot and you'll get into a conversation with someone, or someone will force you into a conversation, or they'll force a conversation in general with your name attached to it, and you're going to be unhappy with the results. So you really do need to consider avoiding conversations on your public spaces as a professional business person, unless you know how to manage the conversation. And that's kind of all I'm going to say about it, because I do have an exercise later that I'm going to have you look at to sort of see what's going on online. But just keep that in mind. Don't go on conversation on LinkedIn about any volatile, relevant, trending topic unless it aligns with your business and you can align your industry insights into that particular conversation. That is a huge, huge tip. Okay. No matter what your brand is, make sure your tone is positive and it's always professional. Again, if you have a goal and you have a story and you're on social media for business, to make money, to build a network, just keep it clear, because we have enough people out there in the world, and there's, believe it or not, some of them are artificial intelligence driven bots and you don't even know anymore. So just, try to keep yourself clean. Keep it clean. And then another thing I will mention as well, and actually I think I'll mention it later, but just remind me, actually, no, I'm going to mention it right now. If you want, I always recommend to people, depending on where you are in your journey as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, and even if you're a person looking for a job, maybe you're looking to go get hired by somebody, go through all your social media channels and scrub them. Go through and delete things that you have even a slight sensation of hair going up on your arms, or a little bit of doubt in the back of your neck, or some little thing in your head that's like, don't ignore those feelings. Delete those posts, delete those comments, delete your likes, and all the social media channels have a way for you to delete your history. And I'll talk a little bit later about how you can do that kind of thing on Google, but you want to make sure that you do that, because again, your interactions and engagement online are part of your professional brand. And believe it or not, some people go back and look like 2 years to your post from 2 years ago. I've had people do that. I've had people like a post I put on LinkedIn from 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm like, wow, you went back that far to look at what I had to say to see if to see if I'm consistent. Remember earlier I talked about consistency? All right. So I think I've said enough about that, but just, whatever you post is open to the public, and it's never, ever, ever private if it's on social media, because someone can always take a screenshot. Okay. So building a network takes time. It doesn't happen overnight unless something amazing happens where you get some kind of big publicity and suddenly you get 1,000 people, 2,000 people following you, or a bunch of requests on LinkedIn. It does happen. Maybe you get a piece of press, or you are on some big podcast, or you get written up in the news for something wonderful, of course. You might get a bigger audience, but 99.9% of the time, an organic growth process is what happens with people, unless you're paying for buy subscribers, and you never, ever, ever want to pay for followers. It's just a recipe for disaster. Okay, so your network also will naturally grow as you spend more time doing things in your field, right? It really does start to grow. I know for me, because I have multiple businesses, my network is really diverse, and I really like to let people think about what do you think diversity means. I'm not talking about ethnic diversity. I'm talking about diversity in terms of what people are interested in, their industries, what they like to talk about. One of my friends from a long time ago said what she loved about New York and hated about Chicago is, in Chicago, you go out to a restaurant and you're sitting with a bunch of bankers or a bunch of accountants. In New York, you'll go to a restaurant, you'll be sitting with a banker, an artist, a musician. You'll be sitting with a homeless person at the restaurant. There'll be a person that loves dogs. There'll be someone who's a dancer. There'll be, there's just like a whole diversity of industries that are roaming the streets in New York. So sometimes, depending on your career or your business, you really do have to mindfully build a diverse network of people so that you have more opportunity as you grow your business or your career. The more diversity you have in your career, the more successful you'll be in the long term. Okay, you don't have to be everywhere all at once on social media. You can pick some channels that you really feel comfortable about, and then pick some channels that you're really uncomfortable with. So don't stick with the channels that you love. I mean, listen, I love LinkedIn and I'm always on LinkedIn, but I'm also on channels that make me really uncomfortable, because I have to push myself to think outside of my normal zone, which means that I'm growing. If I'm uncomfortable and thinking about ways to be uncomfortable, and I'm forcing myself to be uncomfortable, then I'm growing, I'm learning, and you always want to be learning when you're an entrepreneur and small business owner, right? But to start, because maybe you're not like me, maybe you're not a marketer, and maybe you're not managing 15 or 20 different social, interactive conversation chat channels. Maybe you're not able to do that, which is totally fair. And most people don't. But in the meantime, pick a couple, right? Pick a couple. And then definitely when you look at these channels you've decided upon, understand what the channels goals are. What is their purpose? Because you need to know what their purpose is so that you can align what you're doing that works for the tool that you're on, right? So, Instagram, for example, is a great channel for products. Not as great for services, but it does work for services too. It takes a little bit of a different content strategy. But generally speaking, if you go on Instagram, you'll notice you'll get served a gazillion ads, and all the ads are to buy products, because their purpose, the only purpose that Instagram exists is to get our information and our data and our contents. They can get all of that combined into a data dump and then send it back to their buyers, which are advertisers, to then buy ads and then regurgitate that information back to us so we click a button and buy stuff. That's literally the only purpose of Instagram. So if you're using Instagram for fun, that's great. But if you're in business, you need to figure out how to use Instagram the way the big guys do, and the big gals. Well, mostly big guys. All right. So networking sites like LinkedIn. So what I like about LinkedIn, if you're not on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll put my name here just in case. But search for me on LinkedIn, and so that I get about 25 requests a day, anywhere from 15 to 25. So if you just let me know that you're connecting with me from Google Digital Coaches class, that way I won't have to look you up, because now I'm kind of looking at people, because sometimes I'm getting some like really interesting people that want to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm like, what's going on here? Okay, so you can do a lot of cool things on LinkedIn. This is a professional networking site. It's not just for looking for a job. LinkedIn is also for people with a business that are networking and also developing a client list, lead generation, and maybe even closing a contract. I mean, it has happened to me. It's happened to others. It can happen to you. So, try to flip the narrative on what you think LinkedIn is about, because it's not just for people looking for a job. It's also for you as a business owner. Think about this as well. You're a business owner. You're also an employer. At some point in your career, as an owner, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be looking for people to hire. So think of yourself on LinkedIn as, I'm an employer. I'm not just like hanging out here. I'm actually an employer too. So you want to showcase your accomplishments on LinkedIn. Share your volunteer work. Post articles about your industry. Reshare articles that you've seen that you're interested in. And definitely number one tool with LinkedIn is engage in discussions with other people in your field, but also people that are not in your field that are expressing ideas and concepts that you're interested in learning more about. The only way to build your audience on LinkedIn is to engage in conversations. Liking posts does zero, absolutely nothing, because you know what? Liking a post, you're not really sticking your foot out to do anything. You're just like, oh, this is easy. It's too easy. It's too easy. These platforms don't reward easy interaction. They really do reward when you actually like a post and you make a comment about the post. And you know what they really love? When you make a comment and then maybe you copy your comment, and then you take the post and you reshare it again with the comment you just copied that you left from the original post, and then post that. And that way you're basically building a chain mail. That's how LinkedIn works. That's the best way to get more people to join your own profile on LinkedIn. And then there's photo and video sharing sites like Instagram and TikTok. Does anybody here have a TikTok? Please tell me you're using TikTok. I'm going to leave my TikTok. Please tell me you're using it for work and not just for laughs. So easy to use it for laughs. So easy. I love using it for laughs. I've also got an Instagram, so I'll just put Birk Creative because everybody kind of knows how that works at Birk on Instagram. Okay. Hopefully everybody got that. So you can do a lot of professional and personal branding strategy on photo sharing sites. And what does that mean? So on LinkedIn, people write articles, they make comments, they, find out about what's happening in the industry, what's going on with, interest rates, Federal Reserve, jobs outlook, which company laid off 12,000 people or 14,000 or 20,000 or 5,000 today. It's a great place to kind of get a feel for the job market as well. But the photo and video sharing sites, you can actually create and present your professional or personal brand visually with photography, with video. You can take your camera and walk around and share things live. Just you can go to my channel and see some ideas, either TikTok or Birk Creative, and you'll see some of the things that I'm doing. I'm actually experimenting. I'm doing things on TikTok that I don't do on Instagram. But you can also take photographs of things that you like, and that helps people see your aesthetic. I will tell you that I've hired people off of Instagram based on the photography they've taken. I've also not hired people based on the photography they've taken or the creative that they've shown. I'm like, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. So just know that people they make decisions based on what they see. It's not just what they read, but it's actually what they see. And there's probably a lot of people on here right now that can't really manage a very extensive reading process, and they want to look at pictures. And I think that's completely fair. So think about another way to express your ideas. You can even express your career story on LinkedIn. You can tell your career story by leaving a video and saying, hi, I'm JinJa Birkenbeuel. I own a company called Birk Creative. I'm also a musician in a country band, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do live to let people know who you are. And then you start doing all of these things, visuals, writing articles, sharing other people's content, jumping into conversations that are related to your industry, and then jumping into other conversations that may not be related to your industry, but something about the conversation can be related to what you're trying to do with your goals. And then you start formulating your brand. People start understanding and recognizing, oh, this person is here again. They have an idea. They're sharing a story like they always do. Oh, look at the pictures they've created. Now they start creating an idea of who you are and what you represent. And that's actually how you translate your stories to create a brand, right? All right, so you're a landscaping business. Let me give you an example. So a landscaping business, for example, they take pictures of before and after. Before and after. That's really fantastic for a landscaping company. Think about hairstylists. My son, he just got his hair done. I wish I'd done it before and after. He's got a really, I don't even know what it's called. He got cornrows, and these, like, the first time he got these cornrows, the line was not centered perfectly. And so he was angry and almost crying. And then he got someone who finally did it right. And it's like beautiful. And I would have loved to done it before and after, because then I could have promoted the stylist and maybe sent some more business her way, because it just looks amazing and amazing. So house painters, performers, artists, designers, and even a certified public accountant. Like, there's a really great one you should follow. Let me just put this here. Little Fish Accounting. She's professional services. She's not product based. She has a fantastic Instagram channel, and she's got a lot of ideas on how to share professional services on IG. She also has a podcast. So she's really built a tremendous brand for her company. And she also has subsequently built a tremendous brand for herself. So she's got her personal brand, and then she's got her company brand, Little Fish Accounting. You should check her out. She's fantastic. All right. So making and sharing content, it can be a really great way, again, to help people learn about what you do. Consistency is important. Volume is important too. And I want to tell you why volume is becoming more important than ever. There are tools out there now that large brands have created due to the pandemic. They started realizing that influencers and individual people were able to get messages across more effectively and more efficiently, word of mouth marketing via social media. They started realizing during the pandemic that was what was happening. So now these really large brands are putting all their money online, which they weren't doing before the pandemic. And so now a lot of what they're doing is confusing and clouding the social media environment and making it much more challenging for us as small business owners and entrepreneurs to get our messages through, because we're now competing. I mean, I've been saying this for years, that we're competing for attention, because McDonald's has $1 billion to spend and we have one. Who's going to win on attention? McDonald's billion or our $1? But now it's really turned into content as well, and influencers. So we really are up against a lot. And so at one point I would have said, one post a week is fine. And we're really not in that space anymore, because like I said, we're up against the brands, but we're also up against a lot of automation and artificial intelligence. So I mean, if you can't manage more than 2 channels, at least find one channel where you can share the most content that aligns with your goals, and you can talk about your business, and you can engage with people and learn about other people and start building a network. Just try to find one channel, just go hard on and just keep going, because you do need to put out a lot more content. If you're only putting out one piece of content a week, it's not enough. It's not enough. It just really isn't anymore. And I know it sounds scary, but it's just true. So all right, so making and sharing content. Some people are writers. You might be a person that writes a blog post. Maybe you're a teacher and you write about interesting assignments they give students. I mean, you might actually talk about these assignments on TikTok. The teachers on TikTok are hilarious. They crack me up. Some of these teachers, the stuff they put on TikTok, and they've now built really big followings, and they're getting sponsored, right? An HR professional, for example, might share articles about updates to employment law. I know that Little Fish Accounting, she's always sharing updates about what's going on with tax filing and things like that. She's not selling products. She's just talking about, you need to know this is a small business owner, otherwise your taxes will be X. It's really amazing. A real estate agent, oh my gosh, there's so much content out there that about real estate, but we need more information from diverse voices about real estate, for real, not just about the redlining conversation, historical context around Black people not being able to get a home in good neighborhoods, but it's also about just having diverse voices to help other diverse people understand and see people that they look like, help them, feel confident going in and getting loans, or how to walk around a neighborhood and spot a great, the great bones of a house, or what does it look like to join a real estate investment trust, or how do you, like, there's just so much knowledge we have, because we have a lot of knowledge about real estate. So there's a lot of content you can make in terms of blogs and things like that. You also don't have to create your own original content. What do I mean by that? So you can go on a social media channel and find and I feel like I want to break it now and show you, but like you can go to Instagram, for example, and you can go to Instagram and do a hashtag real estate. Like, the little search logo on Instagram. Type in like literally the hashtag, type in real estate as an example, real estate, and then you'll see the top 5 hashtags that come up related to real estate. Just select one of those hashtags, hit follow, and then look at the top 10 posts that have the most engagement related to that hashtag real estate. And when you look at those top 10 posts, you'll say, oh, this is actually a really interesting post. This is like meaningful. It aligns with what I want to talk about. Click that post, look at all the comments, look at what people have said, and go in there, make comments on the comments, like the post, make a comment yourself on the post, and then take that post and possibly reshare it. And that's a way that you're not making original content. You're actually using someone else's content, especially someone else who has high performing, high engaged content, where there's like a zillion people that are liking and following that particular content. And then you can get audiences that way. Like last week, I did this experiment with that myself, where I had a hashtag on content marketing, and then I followed the content marketing hashtag. I made comments on 2 of the top posts because they were actually really excellent posts. And I was like, this is really, really helpful. I didn't even know you could do this on Instagram. And I made a comment like that, something like that. And then that person ended up following me back. So that's kind of how you build the organic reach of your content and your community. And when you have organic build, you get more results on the channels. People that buy followers are being deprecated on the channels. That's all there is to it. So anyway, this is just a way for you to not to have to create your own content, because a lot of people are like, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to write. And just, in the meantime, while you get the muscle going in your brain on creating content, just share someone else's. And again, I think I already talked about cross promoting it, right? You can actually, maybe I didn't. So you find something really cool on Instagram, and maybe you're like, I haven't used Twitter in 6 years. Start using it now. Start using Twitter now. Go back to Twitter, get back on Twitter, start using it. If you don't have to be going on blast like 50,000 posts a day, but definitely get back on Twitter. Take a post that you found on Instagram. Take a post you found on LinkedIn. Copy the link, share it to Twitter, come up with a new picture, repost it. I mean, just do that. And that's a way for you to get back in the mix. Because you know what? Walk around one day, leave your phone at home, walk around the neighborhood, go downtown, and take a look how many people are looking at their phones. Everybody's looking at their phone. If you think no one's looking, you're wrong, because you're probably looking too, but you've been busy looking at your own phone that you haven't looked up to see everybody else looking at their phone. And the reason I bring that up is this is where the money is. This is where the action is. This is where you build your business on this device. All right. So once you started building your presence online, you start wanting to think about what you don't want people to know. And I did talk earlier about going through your social media all the way back to the beginning and deleting things you don't like or you don't want to see, or even if they're not like negative posts or posts that you're just like, ew, cringy, I wish I hadn't said that. Even if they're not like that, maybe there's a post that's like, you know what, like I don't want to delete it, but I don't really like it. Just archive it or save it and then delete it. Just get rid of it, even if it's like, it's just like, this doesn't even serve my brand anymore. I don't even do this kind of thing. I don't want it. Like, whatever it is, just go ahead and do it. But I do want to talk about how you can protect your privacy online, not only with Google, but with other channels. Because you know what, again, when you're applying for a new job, or when you're trying to get funding or go into a collaborative relationship, or for work or whatever the heck it is, people are going to put your name in Google. They're going to put your name in Google. That's what they're going to do. So does anybody have anything? Who has questions for me related to that? Anyone? What does it look like if you scrub all of your posts? I just had this conversation with someone before this class for business design. This line. She's not getting noticed. Okay. Well, hopefully I've helped you understand why that might potentially be happening. You have to put a lot of content on. You've got to engage in conversations. It can't. Okay, so I'm just reading this question in the chat. Just go and take a look at the conversation in the chat. But social media is not about broadcasting yourself. It's not about promoting exclusively. There are times to promote. But the reason that social media works for people is that they engage in conversations and they network and share other people's posts and comment on other people's posts, and hopefully people then comment on your posts. So if you're just broadcasting on the daily basis, buy this thing, look at my stuff, see what I'm doing. If you have 1,000 selfies of your face, 1,000 selfies, that is not, unless you're a model, maybe you're a makeup model. I mean, if you're a makeup model, if you're fashion, then you should be taking a gazillion selfies, because that's your business, that's your goal. So you've got to think about your goals, but always remember that self-promotion without an added value for the person who's looking at your channel, it's not going to work. Like, you have to add value, which means give the person that's looking at you something else, right? You don't want to pay someone to run your social media unless you have a ton of money, because there's no running your social media, right? There's no running it. The reason that social media works is because you can't, well, the way to make it work is to bring your authentic self to whatever conversation you're having online. That doesn't mean you have to tell your life story and blare about all the things horrible or amazing that happened to you every single minute, but authenticity is what gets people going. You want to be emotional. You want someone to feel something. You want someone to laugh. You want someone to want to get to know you. You want someone to say, wow, that's beautiful. I want to buy that thing. Or, wow, that food she just made, I want to know how to make it. Maybe I'll ask her and blah, blah, blah. Or maybe you're a business owner that has a specialized product that can be, sold to someone that likes to bake. And you sort of are like, I have this thing and you're a baker, like, let's connect and do something. It's an organic process and it takes time. If you can integrate it into your daily life and your daily activity, and it just becomes an extension of work, it doesn't become overwhelming anymore. It just becomes work. It's just work. It's no longer personal, but it's work. I was telling the class last night, I'm sure you're doing a lot of consumption of social media. And how about this? You can consume as much social media as you want. And that's fine if that's your goal. You're just like, I just want to consume social media. I have no interest in making money or meeting people. I don't need to build a network. Obviously that's not why you're here. If you didn't want to do that, you wouldn't be in this class. So you want to try to figure out how to use it to do the things that are going to put money in your pocket. Just focus on, how does this make me money? If it doesn't make me money, put it down. Just put it down. Just put it down. Doesn't make you money, put it down. Pick it up when it's time to make money. And making money means sharing your ideas with others and adding value, telling someone how whatever you do is going to help them be a better person or feel better or solve a problem. That's really what it's all about. How does what you're doing solve a problem? You know, McDonald's, if you break down their ads, if you really break down their ads, fundamentally people are hungry. They just want to eat. Like literally, they're like, look, we will feed you and it will be cheap and it will be hot. Come and get it. All right, so privacy. So I don't know how, if you've looked at the privacy settings on your social media. I can't really go through all of them, but I do encourage you to go to your privacy settings. There's a couple of just top tips that you should be thinking about. One, if the information you're sharing, you want other people to see it. Yes or no? Two, if you want the information that you're sharing on social media to be indexed on search engines. My Facebook account in my privacy settings is not indexed on social media, which means that all of my content on Facebook will not show up on Google if someone searches for my name. My LinkedIn account, on the other hand, is the opposite. So my LinkedIn, I want it to be public on search engines. When people type my name in, I want LinkedIn to show up because that's where I make my money and build my network and my business and my community. So go to the privacy settings and just make sure, just take your time and look through everything and say, okay, I don't want all of my posts to be seen by the global community on Facebook. I only want them to be seen by my friends. I don't want people to be able to tag me, things like that. One of the other things I shared last night when it comes to privacy, because privacy in this context, in this class, is about building your professional and personal brand for your business. This is what we're talking about. This is not about privacy as you know, Jane Citizen. This is about privacy related to your professional brand. When you're out in public and you're at events, be very clear. If you do not want pictures taken of yourself, stay away from the pictures because that's not part of your personal brand. Don't take pictures, you know, in front of people that you don't know who they are because you don't know where they're going to show up online. They might not be someone that aligns with your brand. So always say no to photographs. You have a right to say no. You have a right to ask people to not take a picture of you without your permission. And you also, as a responsible citizen and as a responsible business owner, always ask permission first. Can we take a picture together? And you just, you know, you need to take that responsibility as well. Just be very clear. I was at a volleyball event for one of my sons, and I met this amazing businesswoman entrepreneur. At least she seemed like it. She was a photographer, and she immediately like took her camera and was going to do a selfie with me and post it on LinkedIn. I was like, whoa. I said, I'm really sorry, but you and I just met, and we're not taking a picture together, and I don't know. It was wild, but it was innocent. Like she was innocent about it, but I was like, oh, you know, so just make sure that you understand that this is a professional brand decision that you're making that will help you or not. Okay. Important to know that these things are relevant because if you take pictures of your family and you put it out there on social, it'll be there forever. You know the stories about the kids where the mom took the picture of the boy when he was naked, and like now the naked picture's out forever, and the kid as an adult's like, Mom, just remember that, you know, just in terms of your professional brand, right? If your career is social media like mine, everybody expects me to take pictures. Like I am out there a lot. I mean, my husband has a clear line. Like he's like, I don't want this on social. He tells me right off the bat, I don't want this on social. I'm like, okay. And sometimes I pay attention, sometimes I don't. Depends on my goal and my audience, right? You always have to think about that and think about that. What is your goal? What are you taking the picture for? Where is it going to go? What if it gets out? What's going to happen, right? Think about things like that. But locking down your social media accounts means that you are paying attention to how you're managing your professional brand online. So I want you to do this exercise. I want you to search for yourself if you haven't already. Those of you that have been in my class know about this already. So I want you to go to Google, which is the #1 search engine in the world. So going to do this exercise on Bing is also useful. If you want to do this exercise on Yahoo, you can try that. If you want to try DuckDuckGo, you can see what happens. The best way to do this is to open up your laptop. Well, you're on your laptop or your phone. Go to your private browsing or incognito mode. That way you can kind of get a little bit of a more like pure experience as if it wasn't you looking for yourself. and type your name in quotes, quote, JinJa Birkenbeuel, close quote. And then on Google, navigate through all the tabs, the image tab, the video tab, the news tab, they're all information tab, and see what comes up. So I'll share you a story. Before I went to my class yesterday, I did a Google search of some of the students in the class just to kind of give them an idea of, because they came to the branding class, what happened, the professional branding class, what things come up, and I did it on the teacher. And the teacher shares a name with a famous person in Europe that was dead. And I didn't even know this because I asked her, I said, oh, when I pulled up your name in quotes, the first image that pops up on my side is a tombstone with your name on it. She had no idea. And I was like, yeah, that's what, is that a relative? Is that like your great aunt or something? And she just said, no, it's actually a famous jewelry or sculptor or something. And I didn't even know that's what happened. And so here's why it happened though. Number one, she is not managing her own social media brand reputation online. She's not doing anything. So what does that mean? It gets back to what I said in the beginning. Other people are telling your stories if you're not online, because we are now, our reputations are online. What you see online is what people get and what they believe. And so the fact that she's not showing up means that she hasn't done enough, and she's been in the business long enough that she should not be competing with a tombstone. She just shouldn't be. She's a pretty big deal, but and she's made a decision, I guess, to not show up. But I don't think it's really helping her career, and it's definitely not helping her students that are coming to her to learn new things to stay relevant. She learned in my class yesterday that she actually does need to start making some changes because it's her responsibility. And I love it. I love that I was able to transform her thinking around this. But I don't know if anybody did this exercise and was happy to see what came up. But if you aren't happy with what came up, that's a sign that either you need to put out more content and you need to own the content that you're putting out, which means, you have to own your own content, or you have to start creating content if there's nothing there. Or if you share the name with someone that has the exact same name you have, then you need to start putting out content with your own name at a higher volume. What does that mean? Putting out blog posts on your own website. If you don't have a website, you can get one at Google for free. Just type in Google, open your email account, your Gmail account rather, type in Google Sites. You can get a free website under Google Sites with your Gmail account, and you can just use their templates, they're free, and just start banging out like different blog posts. You know what I mean? And here's something else. If you don't know what to write, I don't know if anybody's familiar, but you can open an account with ChatGPT and maybe ask a question, and the question will prompt an article, and just use that article and put it on blast. But somehow incorporate your own vision and your own message around the article. You can't just use the artificial intelligence generated article, but add your own spin to it. And then you can, share the article on your website and sort of put out there, article written by XYZ, help generated by ChatGPT, just so you're clear that, you had a writing partner. You don't want to just take claim of an artificial intelligence article. You definitely want to be clear that you wrote part of it with AI. And these are just other ways to help you get started on creating a lot of different content. Okay. It's really, really helpful to do that. Okay. So if you don't like what you see, I see someone asked, how do you scrub what you find and don't like? You can't scrub it. You can scrub your own social media, like you can delete photos, but those photos you delete are not really deleted, because you can always go back into a Wayback Machine on social and see old tweets from back in the day. Whatever you put out there in the past can be found. Just know that. Okay, so how do you scrub what you find and don't like? Like I said, you can't scrub it unless there's something illegal or going against Google policy. You can't get rid of content on the internet. You cannot do it. Everybody's tried. There are people out there that have committed crimes from a long time ago, and they want their stuff gone because they're trying to change their life, and there's nothing you can do. It's like having a criminal record in the courts. You just can't ever get rid of it. Even when, even if the president of the United States, gives you a pardon, it's still out there. There's nothing you can do. But what you can do is put out a lot of content and overwhelm the content that's there, because the more often you publish content, the more often you put it out there. Google loves fresh content. They will always, always, always raise up fresh content and lower old content. Every single time. That's what Google does. They don't want to serve people content from 5 years ago if it's not relevant. So the more you put out content, fresh content, the better. So let me give you another tip. LinkedIn pays a lot of money to Google to make sure that when somebody types in a name, LinkedIn comes up. How do you get LinkedIn to come up for you? You got to use LinkedIn. It's really a game. It's a circular economy. LinkedIn pays money, they get higher up in the search results. Facebook pays money, Facebook is higher up in the search results. You have a store on Amazon, Amazon's going to show up higher in the search results. If you have a store on Google Retail, Google Retail will show up before Amazon, right? I mean, these things are like, and there's no guarantee of any of this, so don't think I'm telling you this is a promise. It's not. I'm just telling you the more content you share, the better it is. And I know the horse is out of the gate. You're like, how did we get here? I feel trapped. They're controlling me. It's like, if you're in business, just imagine like the really big companies, they have like hundreds of people working on this stuff, hundreds all over the world, hundreds of people working on search engine optimization to make sure that they show up first. You have to do that too when you're a small business owner. All right, so you've already done this. You opened up incognito and you already typed in your name. So now you're like, okay, what do I got to do to fix this? I'm giving you strategies and ideas, and there's no quick fix. These things take time, but they do work when you keep at it with consistency and authenticity with good quality content. It does absolutely, it really, really does work, okay? All right, so you need to look at these things because you need to be prepared for when a potential employer or collaborator finds something. You need to see this stuff. So you need to be looking like every month, at least, or once a quarter. Just keep looking to see what new stuff comes up. Another tip, you can actually set up a Google alert with your name. So I can't get into the details about that, but what you can do is go to Google, search for Google Alerts, or how do I set up a Google Alert? Make sure the information you're getting about Google Alerts is coming from Google and not a third party, because then you'll get spammed to death. So set up a Google Alert, and that Google Alert will have a keyword, and the keyword you put in will be your name. And every time your name shows up on Google, you will get an email in your inbox, and it will say Google Alert, and your name will be there. And you can go click on that link and see what comes up. That's how that works, okay? All right, so again, you might find other people with your same exact name. You'll have to work on that. I helped a woman, what is her name? Jocelyn Adams from Grandbaby Cakes. There's another author named Jocelyn Adams, and so I was able to help her figure out how she could, claim a knowledge panel on her name because the author hadn't done it, and there was some work around how do I claim this name because they have the same name. And that actually is a thing. Like if you have the same name, there's not a lot you can do except for put out a lot of different content. Okay. If you find negative things or things that are not on brand, and how about if you've got some social media that you're just like, it's going to take me a week to sort of hide some of these social media posts. Take all your social media posts back to private if you need to. Just take it back to private until you can decide how to clean up what you're doing. It's really not hard to do that. And it'll take Google a little while before it stops showing your social media content. And that's the truth. Okay, so I want to put a link in the chat. Did I click on an accident? No, I didn't. It's called Privacy Checkup on Google. So if you're at work and you're logging in from work to YouTube or whatever, your private Gmail, unless all of your private settings are turned off to no history saved, all of your history is being saved on the server at your company. So you need to be very careful when you're logging into your private accounts at work, especially if you're not logging in through incognito settings. So go to the privacy checkup and just sort of see what things are that you want to turn off or not. For example, for YouTube, under these privacy settings, you can turn off you can turn off when what you watched on YouTube. You can turn that feature off. So right now, unless you turn it off, what you're watching is being saved and other people can see what you've watched, right? And so that's a decision you'll have to make, how you want to manage that. You can also hide your playlist. You can hide your subscriptions. If you've been posting YouTube content that fits your brand and you want other people to see that content, you want to make sure that you show that. If you have playlists that you don't want people to know about that are not aligned with your brand, you can always hide those specific playlists and make other playlists private. So you just need to be aware of how to, you just need to have awareness over your brand and what you're trying to communicate so you can make decisions about how to keep certain information private or public. Your YouTube activity feed can be turned off. You can delete all the history from the beginning of time, or you can delete history from a month ago or a week ago or 24 hours ago. The same thing with Google Photos. If you have integration between your photos and Google Photos, and you have, like I have my photos backing up to Google Photos because I don't want all my photos on my phone because it takes up too much space. I've got videos, and so I have things automatically backing up to, I think I've got a 3 terabyte account with Google, and also Apple. I'll be honest, I have Apple, but this is what I do for a living. This is my business. So you can make sure that you remove your location from photos that you've taken, right? So Google might have automatically tagged location depending on your location settings on your device. So you got to look at that. You also can control what others see about you, to make sure that you haven't been sharing private information inadvertently, like your home address or phone number, things like that. So just go in and look at all these things individually. I'm not going to be able to support how to set privacy settings on your iPhone if you're using an iPhone, but there are certain things that you need to be looking on your iPhone. I might be running a class later about iPhone privacy, but not today. All right, so now that you've learned several steps, I really want to spend a few minutes talking about networking, and things like that. We already talked a lot about how to share your information on social media, but I do want you to ask some questions when it comes to growing your network. Like, who do you want to meet that's going to help you grow your career, right? What kinds of people do you want to know, do you want people to know about you and the work that you're doing? The more people I mentioned earlier, the more diverse community you have, the better off you will be, and the more sustaining and enduring relationships you'll have. I have relationships I developed years ago that still are relevant to me today. Networking is a longer process, but you have to do it. And like I said, you should be networking right now. I don't see anybody sharing their name in the chat. I see a few people, but not many. You should be networking on Instagram. You should be networking on LinkedIn. If you don't have a Discord, you should be opening up a Discord account and having conversations there, because there are jobs galore on Discord. If you're looking for a job, there's jobs on Discord. People are looking to hire on Discord. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. But mentors, I want to talk a little about mentors. I don't know if anybody has a mentor. If you have one, raise your hand. I have a mentor. But they're really important to have. I actually mentor people. I don't actually do any mentoring anymore, but I used to. But these are people that are just able to share experience with you. And sometimes a mentor can turn into an advocate. That's someone who could say, now that I've mentored you, I trust you. You've been consistent. You show up on time. You're a professional. You're killing the game. I'm going to now advocate you for jobs and for contracts. Let's go. Mentors can convert to advocates, which is really amazing, but they're very helpful. Don't ever ask someone to be if they can be your mentor. Just sort of start having conversations with someone you care about and see what happens, and then just keep it moving if they don't agree to talk to you. I mean, just keep it moving. People are really busy, and stressed, and you just have to be very professionally persistent when it comes to trying to find a mentor. At some point in your career, you need to move off of mentorship and find advocates, though, right? That's something to think about. Some women have trouble with that. They feel like they're being mentored to death all for years and years. It's like, no, you're not supposed to be mentored anymore. You're supposed to have advocates at this point. Like, people need to be getting you jobs and getting you money. Stop the mentoring. Okay, so advocate, I mentioned, they can recommend you for a job. They can get you a promotion. They can get you a contract. They can say your name at a table that you're not at. Next thing you know, you're getting a phone call. Come here, we need you to do this job. You're like, how much does it pay? X amount of dollars. You're like, yes, I'm here. That's exactly how it works, okay? So take a few minutes to think about, do you have a mentor? Do you have an advocate? If you don't have either, how do you get one? How can you get one? Who do you need to talk to? Do you need to join a nonprofit board and start listening and having conversations? That's a way that I've developed advocates and mentors, joining a nonprofit board. Board of directors. I had a really interesting conversation last night about board of directors. People are like, I asked, like, who has a board of directors? And nobody raised their hand. I said, okay, let me rephrase the question. Who has a network of people that they go to on a regular basis to ask questions to help solve problems that you're having? And then like half the room has said, oh, I'm like, yeah, those 5 people that you keep going to, that's your board of directors. Those are people that you go to on the regular basis for ideas and advice. How do you find those people? And I'm not talking about your parents. Your parents should not be part of this group of board of directors, right? These are people that you know and you trust, that have information that you don't have, or knowledge that you've never had or you can't get unless you ask them. They're also people that you can bounce ideas off of when you're sort of thinking to yourself, did I handle that situation right? Did it make sense? Let me talk. And these people, they may know each other, they may not. So think about who's in your circle of fifths, I like to say, that can help you figure things out, that give you expertise, right? You call on them individually all the time, right? It's really amazing. It's really amazing. Okay. Think about things like that. All right. So we took the first steps towards building your professional brand, your personal brand. We discussed how companies brand to their reputations online, how individuals can build their professional brands, right? I helped you talk about a career story. When someone says, tell me about yourself, you're never going to be stuck and frozen like a deer in the headlights ever again. We talked about building your business online, building your reputation online, sharing your story online. We talked about expanding your network. We talked about privacy. Protecting your brand means saying no. Privacy, 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 really, really critical. We did all that today. And this is just the beginning. Honestly, this is the beginning of what needs to happen to build a brand, especially if you're just starting out and you haven't been doing this as long as I have. I've been working with my company for over 2 decades, and I'm very experienced and confident in brand strategy and brand development and talking about branding and understanding and having the confidence to have more than one story. I'm not afraid to ask for the things I need. This is part of my brand story. I ask for what I need. This is something that people know about, right? About me and my company, and the people that I hire to work for me are the same way. So this takes time. But I want you to think about integrating these things into your professional portfolio, your marketing materials, your social media profiles, your LinkedIn story, your resume. Start doing it. Continue to search for yourself online at least once a quarter. Start figuring out ways to get more content out so that you can start smashing some things you don't like on search, right? Also, pick one social media channel. I don't know what business you're in, but if I were to pick a channel right now, it would be LinkedIn and TikTok. And here's why. LinkedIn right now is not charging for access yet. Everything is still wild west, open to do whatever you want and make money and meet people. They are not charging a cost unless you want to pay for premium. They're not making you pay for a blue check mark, at least not yet. You can have conversations with the CEO of Coca-Cola if you can on a platform like LinkedIn. You never can do that anymore on Facebook and Instagram. So I would check out LinkedIn if you haven't already. And last but not least, I am now officially have a career certificate with Google. I have an advanced marketing certificate with Google. Highly recommend you do this, because when you get the certificate, and they're really cheap for IT support, project management, data analytics, XYZ, and even the marketing certificates, you will be part of a pool of people in the Google certificate program that are now eligible to apply for jobs with companies that have pulled their resources together to participate in the certificate program. So when you become certified in something, one of these things, the project management is one of the most popular ones, but the digital marketing one is also really popular, but it's also really, really challenging. I mean, I was like, oh, I forgot about this email marketing stuff. So it's really helpful. I highly encourage you to go do that. Check it out. And you can get these through Coursera. And you can also learn more at google.com/grow. And the last thing I'm going to tell you, on Coursera, I would recommend you look up this. On Coursera, search for beginner artificial intelligence and get a certificate in that. You'll be ahead of the gang. You'll be ahead of the game. You'll be ahead of the game. Gang, which is what my 16-year-old says. Okay, gang. I'm like, what does this mean? So anyway, check out on Coursera, search for a beginner certification course on artificial intelligence. Don't just take, let me just give you one more tip. Don't take these classes just to learn. Take the classes to learn, but make sure the class you take issues a certificate. Do not waste time if there's no certificate. Do not waste time. That is a waste of time. You want a certificate. You want to know why? Because you put that certificate on your LinkedIn and it shows your collaborators, your employers, your partners, your staff, that you are continuously learning, which means that you're going to stay relevant and you're going to have an enduring brand over time. So thank you so much for coming to the Google Digital Coaches Professional Personal Brand Workshop. I'm really grateful that everybody was here and stuck around and listened.